Hello and welcome to this presentation. So I'll be going through the web application we have, which is a PHP application. Basically, the application handles teams, NBA teams, which is the Basketball Association teams, from an API. So it pulls the data from the API, brings it to the local database, and stores it. So from there, you can interact with your database or with your system locally without making many requests to the API. So we have the application on Heroku. It's right here. So I just need to deploy it. Sorry, just define the production branch and then I wait for this to deploy and then I deploy afresh. Let it finish. Okay, let me deploy now. So we are deploying the production branch, which is the prod, waiting for it to finish so that we can interact with the system using the Heroku. So it's launching, it's done. So from here, we can view our application and see that it's working. So you can just copy this. And so we're using it to register. Let me close this. So that's what we have. Let me just use this URL directly. So we have the registration page where you can register to the system using your email, username, and a password. So let's try this. For the email, you can just try my UCID, which is avio at gmail.com. For the username, you can just use my name, password, Gmail, because we're not gonna confirm it. So for the password, you can use the same as the email, and you can confirm that. And so with registration, so the username is not available. You have to use a different username. So for the username, I can use something like tests 123 or tests or a Heroku test. That's better and more unique. So we have the password, there's the email, and then you confirm the email, just pasting it in there. So you've successfully registered with the system. So after registering, you can log into the system using the same details it's saved. So welcome home, hero test is the username. So this is basically what our application does. It's an NBA Teams application made in PHP. So we can explore the details about various NBA teams and provides information about teams, location, conference, divisions, and more. So this is mainly for NBA or basketball fans. So we can browse around and check. We have the teams. This is the home page. So we can view all teams available in our local system. These are teams available. We have API generated teams and manual generated teams. You get there and check. We have also the profile where you can update your username, you can update your profile, you can update your email, your password. We also have the favorite teams and the logout. Of course, we have no favorite team, so you're not gonna get there. So from there, you can just log out, and that's basically the user. So we're gonna log in using the admin and assign some roles to the user or some teams to the user, and then we can interact with the system again as user. So we're going to log in as admin. I have an admin account, which is this. That's the admin account. So I'm gonna copy it, and that's the same as the password. So I log in. I'm in as admin. You can see the different roles available from the NBA teams. That's the home page. You can view all teams available in the system, and actually the view command there. So that's how you view the teams. This is another way which you'll see. There's also the profile where you can update your email, your username, your password. And so to update your password, you have to enter your current password and then the new passwords in there. You also have the roles where you can create a role, you can list roles, and you can also assign roles to different users. So that's all about roles in the system. We can also manage teams. So from here with different buttons, we have the refresh button, which is which mainly refreshes teams. It pulls teams from the API and adds it to the database. So if I click this, I'm going to call the API, the data is pulled and then inserted into the database. So this is a refresh button. It calls the API. This is the only button that calls the API. We also have an add new team, which works as a local but local system to insert new teams. So instead of using the API, you can actually add your team locally without using the API. And so you add your team here and give all the details, including the name, the full name, abbreviation, the nearest city of the team, the conference, and the division of the team. And so you'll have added a new team into the system. You also have the user favorites. These are basically the users available in the system and they assigned favorite conferences. So currently, these are the users who have been associated with some conferences. So from here, you can actually update or insert, that is, create an association between a user and a conference. So we have the list of users. Actually, our Heroku test users in here. We have a list of users which you can assign favorite conferences. So we have the list of users and the list of conferences which are unique and available in our system. We've also so using this button, we'll be updating the system using the user and the conferences available or selected in the drop-down. We also have the select user, which that's the dissociate user, which allows you to dissociate the user from any relationship in the system. So if you want to dissociate a user, like let's just try here with Ruth. So this user Ruth, we can dissociate him from the system by selecting the user and then dissociate the user from the system. So you see he's disappeared here because you've removed the association between uh, the user and the conference. We can also associate Ruth again and select a conference which we feel or which he claims is the favorite for him. So if we update, Ruth comes back here. So those are the associated users. These are the associated users and now you can add associations. We also have unassociated users. These are users who have no relationship inside the system. Users not assigned any conference or a favorite conference. So they are here. We have 3 users currently. You can actually filter this. If you want to see one user, it's one user. If you want to see 2 users, you can see and apply the filters, it's 2 users. So let's try this. You need to associate test@gmail.com and then that is the test user and then see whether it will disappear from here. So we go to the user favorites, associate tests to a conference which is West and then update. So test is here. And when I go back to the unassociated, test is not here. So we can also associate Heroku tests using this and then associate Heroku test with East conference. So Heroku test is here, and when I go back to unassociated, Heroku test isn't there. So only one user is remaining in the system. So that's all about managing users. We also can see the teams available in the system. So these are the teams available in our system. We can view our teams, see the different or the many entities associated with our team. We have the last modified date. We have the date created, vision, conference, nearest city, abbreviation, full name, and name. We also can edit our teams. So we can edit here. This is the edit mode. So you can edit and save. So when you save, it updates in the database. You can also delete a user. So if I want to delete the team ID number 13, I can just delete it, confirm, which is very important, then ID number 13 has disappeared from the system. But when I called again the API using the refresh, user 13 will have come back because I've recalled I've recalled the API again, and so user 13 will be in the system. So that's basically it about user associations. So next, so that's about listing, viewing, editing, and deleting users from the system. We also can apply filters. You can view only 3 teams, and here they are, only 3 teams. So that's it about the admin panel. We basically have the view all. We have the profile, update profile. We have the roles where you can list, create, and assign roles. We also have the manage teams where you can refresh teams, add a team, add a user favorite or assign favorites to users, and then also and associate users, and then list the teams. Let's try and add a team. We've tested this. So we need to add a team called, let's use a team called, let me use my name. The full name is that one. Let's have an abbreviation of the same as that. The nearest city, let's try Chicago. So let's use the conference of conference 6, and we have a division 10. Just trying to be unique. So you can actually add the user, the team is available in the system. And so you can always associate the conference, because if you have a new conference, you can associate the conference to a team. You can associate the conference to a user, sorry. So we can actually associate, let's associate our user with that new conference we've created. So we're going to log in. That's an update we've done, not an insert. So we're going to log in as a user. So it was test Heroku test here. So we're going to log in and check whether our associated has worked. So we have the teams. There's a home page. We have view all teams. The view all, sorry, there's a view all. You can view all the teams. Put a filter. So that's a filter. So we can also, we've checked at the profile. You can update your profile. You also have favorite teams. This is a team we've actually created right now. We've given it my name, which is Bumpov, and so you can actually view my team and see how it's performing and all more details about my team. So that's my favorite team assigned to me by my admin. So that's it basically about our team, about the system. We can just brush into the code very fast. This is a code structure. I have the .n, which is the environment variable holding the DB endpoint of the DB URL, and we have the API key of my NBA API. So this is the API key. So API helper loads API keys. So we better start with API keys. Load API keys .php, which is here. So this load API keys actually takes the cat API key entity, or the entity with the key of a cat API key. It loads from the environment variable through passing. So after loading, it actually passes the API key variable into the API helper. So the API helper calls the is a requirement, the load API key. So it takes the API key in, and so it goes through a process of creating headers for the requests through different functions. So here we're taking the URL, which we'll assign to the key, to the API. So we have a key, we have the data we'll be taking, we have the method, which is get, we're getting data from the API. If the API key is a rapid API, which is true, and then we have the API hosts. So we define the global API key, which loaded from the environment variable, and so this this program basically loads and prepares some headers, so that when you call the API using the correct API URL, you'll be able to get the data. We also have the config, which is the configurations of the system. So they're here. So we are taking in the DB URL. So we're trying to connect to the database. So the loading DB URL from the environment variable and splitting it into different parts, which is the host, the user, there's a password, there's a path, which are all in one line, but trying to split them to different lines. So this is a config file. We also have the db.php, which basically performs database operations. We have to check users, check duplicate, which checks duplicate users in the system. So this is the application. We also have the favorites PHP. So this is a function which shows the users in the system and the conferences available in the system, unique, using the distinct, because a conference might have a different many teams, but we're just taking one instance of the conference. So this is basically it. We also show the users. We're selecting username from users, so we're using the username as the identifier for users. We also have the flash messages. We have the functions which loads these programs. We also have the get URL, which gets the URL of any requests. We've checked at load PHP with the redirect, which redirects users. We also have the render function. We have a reset session, which destroys or resets sessions. We also have a safe echo, which is safe output. We also have a sanitizer, which sanitizes in inputs. And so we have the partials folder with a button. We have buttons defined, we have flash defined, footer defined, input field defined, and a nav.php is a navigation. So we have different buttons in navigation based on our roles and whether you logged in or logged out. So that's how it defines, it determines. For example, with the profile.php is loaded only when the user is logged in. Same to view all. So when the user is not logged in, we have the login and the register. If the user has an admin role, so has admin is the one which checks whether the user has admin role, and so it gives him the roles. So that's it for the navigation, which we'll be calling almost on every page. So we also have the tables, which describes the tables and how they look. We have the public.html. So inside the public.html, we have the project, so which is the one we're actually interacting in here. So we have the project folder, and then inside the project we have favorites. So the admin folder. So here is where almost all files for admins are. Only admins can assign roles. So you're checking whether the user has an admin role. If yes, it goes to the home.php. If it doesn't have, you're given a warning, a flash that you don't have permissions to view this page. So this is it. You have to assign roles. We have another one to create roles, which creates different roles for different users. This of the delete, which deletes, which it's actually a function or a program which is called by the user inside the delete icon here. So that function is called in here. When you click here, this delete, this is a function which is called. That's a function which is called. So you also have the edit team. You can edit a team, you can list roles, you can list teams, you can manage favorites, you can add a new team with team profiles and all that. We have also have the SQLs for creating the different teams and roles. We also have these are cat APIs, sorry, that's what testing. We have the profile where you can view the profile and update profiles. We have the register.php, this handles mainly the registrations. This handles the registration and sanitizes the inputs. So view team details where users can view their details about their teams. So we have the view.php, which views teams for different users. So that's it. We have the index, which is kind of a test which says that it works. So that's basically it for this. We have the test DB, which tests the database connection. So that's it for the application. You can interact with it on the Heroku. We have the product, we have the link in here. So we'll be submitting the link in my MD file. Thank you and have a nice day. So.